right, we'll have to let it go right there. Chris Marola, ladies and gentlemen, Red Momentum Strategies. How'd you like the laying out of Plan A or Plan B? Ronald Reagan's Plan A, and unfortunately, Plan B is what we reelected.
Oh, absolutely. And it just goes to show what Solomon said in the book of Ecclesiastes in the Old Testament. There's nothing new under the sun, especially as far as these people on the political left are concerned. It's the same thing we've been hearing for over 100 years. Just keep redistributing the wealth, and supposedly it's magically going to get to the people that need help. Well, it never works.
I got a couple of the articles that you had sent me. We're going to get further into this whole gun debate, but isn't it ironic that a lot of these media people who are laughing at the NRA for suggesting having armed guards in the schools send their children to schools that have armed guards?
Exactly. That's precisely the point. The hypocrisy of the political left just never ends. One of them is David Gregory, an NBC newscaster, who was mocking Wayne LaPierre and actually saying that the mass shootings at Columbine and Virginia Tech show that, carrying guns doesn't help us or gun control is needed. Well, here's the ironic thing about it all. Columbine and Virginia Tech occurred in gun-free zones, meaning if someone's a criminal and they want to shoot a mob of people, they know go to a place where no one can defend themselves, like a gun-free zone. You're basically announcing to some crazy or violent person, no one's going to stop you because we have a gun-free zone here at these colleges.
Chris, this is one of the few things I'll ever agree with you on.
No, that's not true. Well, he's on a roll today. He started off hating on the Falcons yesterday.
Well, that's because his Eagles have been terrible for a number of years.
Ouchie.
My wife wanted you to know that a couple of her nephews are big Eagles fans, Joey. They live in Philadelphia.
Well, they can't help that. They screw up around it, so we can't blame them.
Well, that all came about when my daughter was commenting on Joey hating on the Falcons.
Oh, I see. Well, here's the deal. Being a diehard Steelers fan, my wife and I are rooting for the Falcons because they've never won a Super Bowl. We don't want the 49ers to win another Super Bowl because then they would tie the Steelers for the most amount of Super Bowls ever won with 6. Right now, the 49ers have 5. We don't want that franchise to tie the Steelers, so we're definitely rooting for your Falcons.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm rooting for them because I root for them.
There you go. Well, getting back to the whole hypocrisy on the Second Amendment, it's not just the NBC newscaster David Gregory who mocked the idea of armed guards and then sends his kids to a school where there are armed guards. That same school is actually where Oklahoma sends his kids as well. It's called Sidwell Friends School in Washington, and they have 11 security officers, and they're seeking to hire another. So as Obama's trying to disarm law-abiding citizens, guess what? He has no problem sending his kids to a school where they have armed guards.
Chris, why do you think they'll get that hypocritic on certain things? I mean, well, who was the guy? I think it was up in North Carolina in the last week or two, who was very anti-gun that shot and killed a fellow that was had burglarized his home.
Yeah, it was a state senator or a state rep, a Democrat, who was very, very anti-gun. And then a burglar came into his home, and he ended up shooting him. And I'm wondering if his strong anti-gun stance is what attracted the prowler. Maybe the prowler believed he didn't carry a gun.
Well, and I remember there was a media guy who also was very anti-gun. That didn't he shoot somebody that drowned in a swimming pool? Or it was some. I'll try and remember the guy's name for the next time we talk.
Yeah.
But this is a classic example. Do as I say, not as I do.
Absolutely. In fact, going back as far as the failed Million Mom March, which I think turned out only a couple 100,000, not the millions that Rosie O'Donnell fought, we found out later that Rosie O'Donnell, in her very anti-gun activist ways, were shown to be, once again, hypocritical. she has armed guards protecting her wherever she goes. Amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah, it is. Well, check this out. The Des Moines Register published a gun ban column advocating deadly violence against the NRA and the Republican leaders. Now, even if it was just tongue-in-cheek, can you see the newspapers doing the same if this were a conservative, advocating the death of some organization, liberal organization? No way. But in this article, he actually says it. He says we need to repeal the Second Amendment, declare the NRA a terrorist organization, make membership in the NRA illegal, and then make violent threats to the Republican leaders and the NRA members. You see, this all stems from what we've discussed in the past, moral and cultural relativism. Here, I'll prove it right here. In one of the statements, this gentleman who wrote in the Des Moines Register, his name is Donald Call, he actually says that the Second Amendment offers an absolute right to gun ownership. Well, he gets that right. He really does, that there really is an absolute right to gun ownership within the Second Amendment, within the Constitution. And the reason I believe he is so repulsed by that absolute right is because liberalism and political left, thinking is built on moral and cultural relativism, which means they don't believe in any absolute right, any absolute wrong. They don't believe in any absolute authority in the universe. So anytime someone references something absolute, such as you definitely have an absolute right to defend yourself, they go bonkers. They can't handle it.
Chris, before we run out of time, how do you think this debate over the debt ceiling, raising of the debt ceiling once again, is going to play out?
Yeah, I don't like the fact that some Republicans are saying they're willing to raise the debt limit. However, it is good that they're holding Obama's hand to the fire and saying we want spending cuts first. If they hold to that, then they may end up having not to raise the debt limit. I hope that's what happens because, let's face it, Obama is not going to bend on spending, not very much. If he does, it'll be some insignificant, trivial little thing. Let's cut some, projected spending from a projected budget, no real dollars. I hope that this is where the Republicans make their stand.
Chris Marola, Red Momentum Strategies, frequent contributor to the show. Chris, thank you, and based on your earlier comments, go Falcons.
Everybody loves you, and so do I.
Okay, he likes that one. All right, Chris, good talking to you. Joey and I will be back for our final segment of the day and a little bit of U.S. history in a couple of minutes. We'll see you shortly.